Listen, I'm Bruce Weeb, and I'm school trustee liaison in Prince George. And I have a real special connection to this valley, but I'll save that for later. Your liaison trustee is Tim Bennett, and he loves this valley too. Now, Tim was really under the weather. He's just not feeling well. The poor guy's been dealing with a real super bug, and so I thought it would be better for him to stay home and get well. So I said, listen, let me come on out to the valley here. I love coming out. So I'm here, Bruce Weeb. Tim is away, and he sends his regrets. He wishes he was here. Let me tell you what we're doing tonight. We're looking at strategic planning, and we've invited you here tonight to work with us to evolve School District 57 into an exemplary school system, preparing all of our students for success in the 21st century. We, all of us together, need to develop an innovative and sustainable model of public education that meets the needs of current and future students, so they are prepared to meet the challenges they confront personally and those they will meet professionally in the context of a global economy. The outcome of this work will be a strategic plan for the district that will be a framework to help us make future decisions concerning the students in our school district. Why is this an important undertaking? The education system today is not sufficient for the needs of students in 20 years. Education is necessary to fulfilling the potential of every citizen. Education is the foundation for future community and economic success of our district. A full spectrum of perspectives from all of our community is required for a complete and progressive answer. And for these younger people in the room, I happen to be on Facebook, and I noticed that George Lucas said that education is the most important aspect of human life. So there you go. Tonight is not going to look like a traditional consultation. We don't have a plan to share, and there is no specific outcome we are looking for. We are here to work with you to answer some important questions about what we want for our children. I would like to introduce you to the team at Stormy Lake Consulting, who will be leading the discussion tonight. I will be joining you at a table, as well as we have various people from our district sitting at tables as well. And we're all looking really forward to what we can learn together. So, without further ado, let me introduce to you Charlie and Eddie. They are strategic planners from Stormy Lake Consulting. They've done this a number of times before, and you're going to enjoy it. I've been through this before, and it's a lot of fun, and they move us along at a good pace. So let me turn it over to them, and they'll take it from here. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Bruce. And thank you to everyone for turning out in such great numbers. We're thrilled to have you all here, and it's wonderful to see so many young faces here as well. Part of today is about making sure that we all get heard through this incredibly important process that we're undertaking, the development of a strategic plan for SD57. And this session, we're just aiming to have as much conversation as we can, and we're going to try and capture it in many different ways. So we've just gone through a few introductions. We're going to get swiftly on, we're going to move swiftly on into some exercises that we're going to run through with you guys. Then we're going to try and present back to you some highlights of what we've heard from the discussions today. And we've got Zach and Nick from the high school here who are going to be helping us out today, and so we really appreciate your help, guys. And we're going to be working hard, and we're going to be working fast. And then we're going to wrap up, and we're going to get you out of here by 7 o'clock. I just want to highlight one particular quote that really exemplifies what we're looking for from today. The most important part of any conversation is what none of us could have imagined before we started. And that's really important for this session. When we've got trustees, we've got students, we've got teachers, we've got parents, all sorts of different stakeholders that have very important role within the education process. Everyone has a voice, everyone has an opinion. And so let's learn from each other and let's evolve our own opinions through the session today. So, just a few rules of engagement. Participate actively, share airtime, listen with respect, stay focused, be curious, and speak from the heart. So if we can remember those, then I think we're going to have a great discussion. I also want to highlight a little quote that we heard at a previous session, not here in the district, but there's going to be a lot of wrong people at my table. This was somebody walking into one of these similar sessions, and I think he was saying it slightly flippantly, but the fact remained, when he left that session, he was feeling the most buzzed, the most jazzed about the session, because he actually had his opinion changed. So allow yourself to be open to the other opinions that are present at your table. And I also just want to say, there are no experts, we're all learners. And that's really important here when we have people of varying ages, of varying backgrounds. Let's come into this thinking that we're open, we're not experts, and we're just here to learn. So that's really important, and I want to land that with you guys. A couple of notes of process. We're going to be having at the tables a lot of notes. You've got pens on the table. Hopefully you've got enough pens. If you haven't, we'll probably be able to source some more for you. There's going to be work that you do as individuals where you're going to be writing down notes on the cards that we give you. In which case, please put your table number on everything. We're going to come around now with table numbers to give to you guys. And then there's also going to be group discussion work that we're going to have you guys participate in. And what we'll be doing is we're going to just put a little voice recorder on each of the tables. And that's not to broadcast this information anywhere. It's just simply for us, after the sessions, we're going to go through them all and we're going to listen to your conversations and make sure that everything that you have said is captured. So, but in terms of broadcast, one thing I do want to point out, we've got Gord here. I think a lot of you already know Gord here from the community. So Gord is going to be filming some of the proceedings, and so feel free to interact with Gord as you see fit. So that's, I think, it from a process perspective. The one other thing I'd say is we are going to need some volunteers when you're having group discussions. We need one person per table to be like a scribe, somebody who can take down the important notes from the conversation you're having. So when we get to that stage, if you can make sure that somebody is appointed the principal note taker. So, I think we're just going around with the first exercise that I'll just introduce in a second. Eddie, we're going to... Oh, you got the table numbers? So, if I could just have your attention, the first exercise that we're going to be doing is looking at the ways that you have learned and the places that you have learned what you've learned. So, I'll just read this. Looking back through your life, what are the ways and where are the places that you have learned? So what we want you to do is you're receiving a worksheet here. We want you to write down your thoughts on the worksheet provided and then do that individually and then start to share it. So those are the important things.
Oh, I see.
Look back through your life, what are the ways and where are the places that you've learned?
Learn a lot from those experiences.
Hands-on, formally and informally, from books.
Okay, so we're going to move on. Thanks very much for that discussion. I said at the beginning that we're going to be moving at quite a pace, and I promise you that we will be. We are capturing everything that you're talking about, and we will be collecting in all of the information that you've written down. But our next exercise is going to be all related to the photos that are currently being handed out by Zach and Nick. And And what we want you to do is we want you to spread these out on the table. So just shuffle them out, put them on the table so that everyone can see a selection of them. And what we want you to do is to pick 2 photographs each. Okay? So we want you to pick 1 photograph that reflects your education and 1 photograph that reflects what you would like education to be in 20 years' time. So this is kind of metaphorical, I guess. So, for example, here up on the board, we have a photograph of some kids swimming. And we've got here, so you've got a table number, obviously, you've got a table number on everything. And it says, my education. You quickly describe what the photograph is, so it's kids swimming. And the reason you picked that photograph was I made friends for life and whatever it might be. I felt like I was always underwater or whatever the metaphor is, whatever the reason you picked that photo. So you're going to do 2 cards. 1 card for your education. Apologies, we're doing 1 card, 1 for your education, then underneath you do education in the future and you do the same thing again. So 2 photographs, 1 card. 1 photograph for your education, 1 photograph for what you want education to be in 20 years.
Thank you.
Some of the photos are big.
On the same card.
Here, 20 years.
Arithmetic, both of which she helped in a big way to help me overcome.
But it doesn't look, it looks like the salt, like a...
Tactile, hands-on learning rather than just books and...
And then in 20 years, I think it's real struggle. And you have the people looking down.
Yes, and I think we need to take things from the past, not forget.
The next exercise we're going to do is, again, similar to the last one, you're going to work individually and then move on to work as a group. And the guys are handing around these little blue note cards. We're asking you the question, what capabilities and abilities does an educated citizen need to possess in order to live well in the 21st century? So what we want you to do is we want you to write 1 capability or ability on a card. Just generate as many as you can, 1 per card, individually. And then as a group, start looking at the ones that you've developed and group them into themes. So for example, if you're writing down, computer skills, and then another one might be, they need to be happy. They need to have a sense of happiness or contentedness. Those will be different groups. You may have themes that you guys can collect as a table. So work on it individually, 1 per card, then work as a group to collect them together into themes. And then just keep generating. This one's all about volume.
Are there any blank cards left on the table?
Oh yeah.
Social skills, social skills, yeah.
Communication.
What is this? Life skills, okay.
Work ethic. We've got to work on it too. It says abilities, right? Confidence.
Except last is... That's a good one.
How to find actual facts. Thinking. This is a thinking one.
And communication is our second biggest, hey? Yeah. Communicating, listening.
We're now going to have a game called Opposites. This is, we might get some arguments at this point here. What we're going to do is we're going to hand out, Eddie's just coming around now, he's handing out a set of 5 word pairs, which are opposite words to each other. And as a group, for each card or each piece of paper, you need to decide, as a group, which is the 1 word that best describes what the education system in School District 57 should be.
Should be.
Yeah. So, you've got 5 sheets in front of you. For example, you've got one here which is tradition or innovation. Which one of these is most appropriate to the future of School District 57? And we understand that they might both be relevant to the school district. We want to understand which one you think, as a table, is the most appropriate and why. So we need somebody on each table to be note taker. Just note down the important points, and you need to decide as a table. You have to decide.
Like you can take each of those and twist it. Do you know what I mean?
I could say that it could be both, because we want it to be local, but we want our children to be able to be global in their.
So,
And if there's one way you can't decide,
By nature, kind of innovative because they're growing up in a different world. It's in the future too.
Tradition can be updated.
tradition can be updated too.
If you're talking like old, it's all comparative to.
You're working on right now on an old paradigm. What if the paradigm was? And you know, the perfect example is that a lot of stuff students' learning ability.
Yeah. Because we said some kids need flexibility.
It's measurable, right?
I realise that always that exercise always stimulates some good discussion. Sometimes a little bit more heated than others. So, thank you. Our next exercise is going to be a group exercise. And we want you to imagine that it is now 2035, so 20 years from today, and people are sitting around the table and talking about learning. One of them says, those were bold and courageous changes that they made 20 years ago. What were those bold and courageous changes to the education system here in School District 57? So we want you to just note down the discussion that you have on the sheet that is being passed out right now. The discussion that you have as a group.
It's so much bigger than just the education. They're systematically killing small towns.
To their income. You know, yeah, but then you can get the
Their education, they're not writing, and they can't do the calculator.
Yeah.
Right? We do need to go back to the basics.
Teaching them keep the good ones. Last year.
math is a big thing.
That's few and far between.
You adapt to the tools.
Some kids are better at some things than others, and some kids won't be able to make change.
As I was growing up, I had some spelling issues, and so I had to teach materials and do more puzzles and do more puzzles.
And I think you're going to see that we are kind of at that max where everything's being pushed and changed, and now we're pushing back and saying no.
So your courageous change will be to limit technology. Okay.
Thank you, guys. So the next exercise is about the barriers to change. So to start the movement in the direction that you've just described in terms of what this ideal education system in School District 57 is, what might stand in the way or prevent the appropriate change from happening? So what we want you to do, each person working individually, write down on a green card a little short phrase at the top. It says yellow, we're using green so that we can sort it better at the end of today's session. Write down a short phrase at the top of the green card that describes that barrier to change that you foresee within the school district. And then, after you've written out a whole load of cards with the barriers to change, look at the bottom and start writing down what's going to get over that hurdle. What will enable us to create the change and get over the hurdle get over the barrier that you talked about. So, and then once you've worked on that individually, then start sharing as a group. We're going to spend 10 minutes on this exercise.
Their kids' education to be like what their education was like, even maybe if it wasn't necessarily beneficial. So, but I don't really know if people are going to change.
Yeah, because if you can't think of the answer, you wouldn't really consider it much of a barrier then.
Another barrier I see, and I didn't put it because I don't know how to write it, but the high school expectations, and then they go off to university. Those two are still far apart.
City folk understanding that rural life is important.
Colleges being able to offer a program of studies is going to meet the needs of everybody, that no matter what path they're going through after grade 12. That's the problem.
Present expectations by universities and people, what do the kids need to do the next thing? I think it's a good idea.
They can pick and they can say what they want.
You kind of put the enabler in there, encouragement for people who can actually change.
Next one's going to be white.
Right that's the reality.
And it's lack of choice.
Well, we've been talking about, you know, some of the more sort of high level, where do we want education to go in 20 years' time? This exercise really starts getting down into the weeds of what do we need to make a change to today. So we appreciate all the commentary that you've made there. The final exercise that we're going to do today, before we do a wrap up and talk a little bit about what we've heard through all the notes that these guys have been collecting. The final exercise is one that we want you to work on individually. It's a personal message. You've all got white cards now in front of you. We're going to come and pick up all the rest of them in a second. But just the white card is important now. We want you to write on that card what you can personally do to make the ideal education that you've described today become a reality. So this is your personal commitment.
You could share your ideas with your teachers.
Jabbering, but we get to actually write stuff.
As I mentioned before, we've had Nick and Zach and Eddie over in the analysis corner typing away furiously. I'd like to say a huge thanks to Zach and Nick for devoting there's an ice pack for carpal tunnel syndrome outside. We'll get that for you. But these guys have been collecting all the notes that you've been scribbling down. And we've been doing a little bit of analysis of the notes as we've been going. And Eddie's just going to share a couple of insights from a few of the exercises that we've been able to glean so far.
Cool. Great. So again, thanks a lot for coming tonight, everyone. It's been a great session. It's been pretty energetic in here, so I'm sure you guys are probably tired-ish and ready to go home. So we'll get you out here in a few minutes. But basically, we're going to go through 3 or 4 different things we learned today. And we tend to use wordles. So those of you who know what a wordle is, the more something was said, the bigger the word is. The less something was said, the smaller the word is. So it gives you a sense of kind of how common the themes are throughout the evening here. So in terms of the ways that we've learned, you can see here that we're not just learning within the schools, the walls of the school. So you can see we learn through experience and books and parents and travel and the internet and family and reading, friends. So the actual ways in which we learn go well beyond the actual classroom. You can really learn in every aspect of your life. So the idea of learning isn't so restricted to a single setting now. We really learn at all places and all times. So you can see here that no one really puts any single dot. There's a lot of dominant answers in here, but a lot of it really is just simply through experience and observing others and that real hands-on side of things and through those around you. So it's really cool in the sense that we can learn in a lot of different ways. For the places we learn, a little less spread out there. Obviously we learn at school, which is great. University, home, work, community, college, sports, rangers, libraries, conferences. Again, we're learning in many different places than just the school setting. In other work we do, we find actually school doesn't come up as much as it does for education. School is actually a little bit less because people start to think a little more outside of the school, but school itself is pretty big. Now for the capabilities and abilities, we got a lot of different answers. So you can see here that when people are done school, you want them to be able to do lots of different things. But the main ones are the idea of communication, compassion. We get a lot of things around respect, competence, abilities, adaptability, and things like that. In this session, compared to other ones, we see more of the hard skills coming out too. So technology, math, literacy, problem solving. But a lot of these skills you aren't actually measured right now. So in the classroom, we don't measure communication necessarily, we don't measure respect, or we don't measure compassion. So a lot of these other skills, is that idea of the global citizen that's really starting to emerge now, and the ability to successfully adapt when you leave the classroom. And whatever success means will vary across everyone that goes through the door. So there's no clear definition of what success actually is. But the reality is that the way that you're seeing these abilities and capabilities play out is that you want people to be able to leave the school setting, whatever they do, and to be able to succeed in whatever path they choose. It's not so much having to go to college or having to go to university or having to go get a job, but really that global citizen, just being able to contribute to society and just really be a positive member of the community. So the capabilities and abilities are actually pretty cool that are emerging here.
Yeah. And there's a few other elements we just want to highlight. I'm just going to pull out a couple of the photographs that you guys selected to describe your education and the education of the future. I think this is a really interesting one. This is Footsteps in the Sand. It felt like I was supposed to know the path, but it kept getting washed away, which is very interesting. And then, as Eddie said, here in this community, there's a real hands-on, sort of connected to nature element here. And talking about my education, it's traditional. I learned so much by doing. And then I thought this was a really interesting comment. There's lots of pieces of learning coming together to make one education. And that goes back to that first wordle that Eddie was showing you, where there was just so many different influences on people's overall education. And then when we move forward, I'm just picking out two more. This was a really interesting one. This is about the future of education, and it's the space shuttle. When the destination is difficult to imagine, we need to be prepared for everything. And I think I saw that in so many of the comments that you guys were writing next to the images, and it's mirrored in this second one here, which I think we tried to work out with salt flats, with water coming through the salt flats. In the future of education, we need to use our imagination to see how we can grow in ways that we can't envision. So it's a tough job that's ahead for SD57, but we really appreciate all the work that you guys have done in terms of building those latter exercises around how we make bold changes and how we overcome barriers. Just as a point of note, in terms of the word pairs, if you want to know how everyone else was talking about things, the only three that came out as almost unanimous, or at least certainly favoured strongly: innovation, broad, and flexible. The others, local and global, great discussions were going on around that, but you couldn't quite decide. And also practical and academic, and we understand that's a pretty difficult one to decide on as well. A lot of people were saying, well, you kind of need to have a practical academic education. So it's kind of, you know, a good amount of, if we were going to select a photo for this exercise, it's a fence. And you guys were firmly sat on it. So, it only remains for me to say a huge thank you from myself and Eddie to all of you guys, to our note takers over here. And I'm going to pass back to Bruce just for a couple of closing words.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Charlie. I do want to take just a minute more of your time, and thank you. First of all, I do want to thank Zach and Nick over there who gave up their time to help out. Charlie and Eddie, who've done a great job leading us, moving us along. I want to ask all the students who are in this room if they'd put their hands up. Students who came tonight, I want to thank them very much. So I'll just say, I want to ask all the school staff, teachers, secretaries who came. Can you put your hands up? I just want to thank you for coming. Thank you very much. want to thank the parents. Parents, will you put your hands up, please? I want to thank the community members. Some people aren't parents, but they're community members, and they're right here giving up their time. Who are community members that I want to thank the principals. Can I ask the principals to put their hands up? There seems to be a spy from McBride here. He's being pretty quiet. I want to thank the superintendent of schools, Mr. Pepper, for coming tonight. Let's give him a thank you. I don't know if there's anyone I missed. I hope not. I did say parents already, right? Did I, Sean? Yeah, good. So I again want to thank each of you. I hope you found this interesting and worthwhile. A great process that we've gone through, and we're looking forward to a wonderful report that'll give us guidance for the years ahead as we shape our school district to meet the new needs of students today and in the future. So thank you to all of you. Have a great evening. Thanks again.
We're here with Charlie Easton, who is a consultant facilitator with Stormy Lake Consulting. Charlie, we just had a session here in Valemount. What were we doing here tonight?
So tonight we were really trying to do two things. Firstly, we were trying to envision and imagine the ideal education for our kids in School District 57. And the second element about it was, how do we overcome the barriers between us getting from the state today to where we want to go to. So there was an element of it which was blue sky thinking and trying to envisage something that is maybe 20 years away, and an element which is quite practical and getting down to the nuts and bolts of how do we actually start making real effective change to the school system.
Really difficult questions and really grassroots questions. How do you go about compiling this data, and what do you do with it from here?
Well, that's a really interesting question, because the reason we set up the process that we've gone through tonight is we want to create dialogue. We call this dialogic research. We had a number of people in the room. We have 50 people. I was delighted. I think you said it was almost 5% of the community here in Valemount turned out. That's great. We want people to have discussions, and that's what we did tonight. We captured all of the notes that people were making individually and as tables, and we're going to be going over the next several weeks. We're going to be noting down absolutely everything that people said and pulling out key themes from that. Once we've got those key themes, we're then going to distill it further into overall and overarching themes for the whole school district, which will then impact the strategy for the next 5 years.
One of the interesting things I thought tonight was that there was a great cross-section of people. There was everything from students to parents to educators to children. Brian, how does that help in this process?
Well, firstly, I'd just like to say that we didn't actually handle any of the recruitment, so that's a real credit to the community for everyone seeing the value in this process and becoming engaged with it. So we're delighted everyone chose of their own accord to come out and support this. It helps enormously because when you're at one of these sessions, you want to hear different perspectives, and that helps shape your perspective. So we were able to get to discussions where a current student was talking to a parent, that was talking to a trustee, that was talking to a council member. Those kind of discussions don't just happen on a regular day-to-day basis. So today was incredibly valuable for nothing more than having that as a basis for how we move forward.
Let's talk about the process overall. So this process is going on for School District 57. How many communities are you visiting, and how many have you done so far, and how many do you have to go?
Well, we're doing 9 in total. We have been up in Mackenzie, we're down here in Valemount. We're going to be in McBride tomorrow. We're doing a number in Prince George itself and all around the communities there. So 9 in total. We're about halfway through the process. As I said, McBride tomorrow, and then a few more next week in Prince George. But yeah, we're speaking to literally hundreds of people throughout the district to make sure we get a really representational view on this very important issue.
What is the next step?
The next step is to collate all the data, distill it down into some key themes, and then to try and work on that data and those themes to build a strategic plan for the district, working, of course, with the school district itself, trying to understand what the key values are for the district, what the combined goal is, and try to understand some of the action points as to what needs to happen over the next 5 years.
Great. And what is the timeline for completion of the report?
The completion of the report, I believe we will be presenting it to the school district at the beginning of September. I please don't quote me on this, but I believe that the impact will start to be felt from then onwards.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bruce, we've just gone through a session here. Can you tell us a little bit about what you felt, how the session went?
Oh, thank you, Gord. I really enjoyed tonight. We had a great representation of people here, and they really gave some heartfelt thought and ideas to the answers that they provided. I was really pleased with the cross-section of people who attended. We had students, we had parents, we had community members, council members, we had our grandmothers, we had school staff, the superintendent. It was just a great session with a lot of good ideas, and it gave, I think, our facilitators good information for writing a report for directions for the future of School District 57.
And that's my next question is, what's the next step here? What are you going to do with all this information? You're doing, I understand from Charlie, you're doing 9 of these around the district. What do you hope to accomplish with it?
Well, thanks for asking that. First of all, I'll tell you the practical part of it. Of course, the facilitators, Charlie and Eddie, and their other facilitator, Philip, who's not here tonight, they take all this information, they collate it, they analyze it, and they're going to put together a report for us. And in that, they'll identify some common themes, some values, some goals for the school district. As trustees, our goal is that we want to see this shape the future. School District 57, we want guidance from the grassroots, from the students and the people, the community who really have the information as to what they want their children to learn and be able to do in their futures. And so that's the hope and the goal for us as trustees and for this process, so that we end up shaping School District 57 to meet the needs of students both now and in the future.
And I think that's a really important question. It's no surprise that, especially here in Valemount, the community itself is shrinking in population. The school population is also shrinking as well. There are some real challenges here, and I think with technology changing and the way education is being delivered changing, how do you see this process being beneficial for you?
Well, the process itself allows for people to offer input. It gives us direction through the report, and that will help guide what we do as a whole school district. And some of the challenges as trustees is that we have to meet the needs of every child across the school district. Our district is 500 kilometers from one end to the other end. So it's a big district with many schools and many different needs. And here in the Robson Valley, and Mackenzie, we are well aware as trustees that we have rural schools that are trying to look at different ways of providing education to meet the needs of their children because the funding level is not as large because of the less number of students that the high schools have in Mackenzie and McBride and Valemount. And so we're hopeful that there will be some ideas and goals that will come out of that. We're hopeful that we'll have some direction as a school district and a board of education as to how we can help work with the communities and how we can provide the support to provide equal opportunity education for all our students in the school district.
And you were at an interesting table. Everybody was split into different groups. You had 2 students with you. You had a village counselor. You had the chief administrative officer for the village with you. What surprised you, or did anything surprise you from the conversation between the students who are in one age group and the management and the council representation that was there?
You know what was actually amazing is that the themes came through very common between all the various age groups and role models. And let me tell you, Gord, was it heartwarming to have the students at the table. I just love that idea of having the students and the ideas that they shared. And they were open-minded and broad thinking, and they're in tune with the world and the global world that we live in, and they've got ideas of how we might better meet the needs of students. And so it was nice to hear their ideas. Their ideas were very similar to the rest of the people, as you said, village administration, very similar in the themes. And so therefore I found I wasn't really surprised because we had very smart people putting down ideas, heartfelt ideas because they value education. Learning's lifelong. And each one of those people at the table really emphasized that for me, and I was really pleased. So there was no surprises. I was just thrilled, and I have to say this. I was thrilled with the turnout of people that we had because everybody's got a busy life, and it's hard to find time to come to meetings and share your input. And I was pleased. We had a wonderful cross-section of people. We had a great number of students, which was a real bonus, I think, to having the students here. And I was pleased with the ideas that came forward. I think everybody wants the best for their children. And that would be my goal and the Board of Education's goal. And we're just looking for ideas how we might be able to make that happen. So thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.